The first time my own son looked directly into my eyes and spoke about me like I was already disappearing, something inside my chest turned completely cold forever. Not broken, not weak, just cold enough to finally understand the truth hiding quietly inside my own home. "Miriam," he said softly that afternoon, sitting across from me carefully, "you've been forgetting things lately." Not Mum, not Mother, Miriam. That was the very first thing I noticed. People stop treating you like family before they stop calling themselves family. So tell me honestly, what would you do if your own children slowly started rewriting your reality while smiling directly into your face? Because at first, I truly believed they were only worried about me. That was my biggest mistake. 6 months before the courtroom, 6 months before hidden recordings, lawyers, fake concern and betrayal, back when mourning still belonged completely to me, I lived alone inside a narrow brick house on Briar Lantern Road, the kind of home carrying more memories than furniture. Every morning started exactly the same way. Coffee brewing slowly, the old kitchen clock ticking softly, floorboards creaking beneath my slippers, Arthur's photograph resting quietly beside the window. Routine mattered after losing someone you loved deeply. That house never surprised me until one Wednesday morning changed everything permanently. I was finishing a crossword puzzle when Adrian walked inside carrying grocery bags without knocking first. "Morning, Mum," he said casually. Then, without warning, he looked directly toward me and said softly, "You forgot dinner last night." I frowned immediately. "What dinner?" "The reservation with Celine at Gilded Apron," he answered carefully. But I remembered Sunday perfectly clearly. I baked almond cake that afternoon. Juniper visited, carrying a new book for me. We talked for hours beside the fireplace. No restaurant plans ever existed. "I don't remember that," I replied slowly. Adrian sighed softly afterwards. That sigh would haunt me for months. "That's exactly what worries me lately," he said gently. Worries me. Concern always sounds soft in the beginning. That's how manipulation quietly enters families unnoticed. Later that afternoon, Celine arrived unexpectedly, carrying flowers and pastries. She hugged me too tightly before asking carefully, "How are you feeling today?" "I feel perfectly normal," I answered. She studied my face strangely. "You seem tired lately." "I slept fine," I replied calmly. Then she whispered softly, "You don't need to pretend with me." Pretend. That word stayed inside my mind long after she left. We sat together drinking tea from the same blue porcelain set Arthur and I bought years ago in Prague. Celine watched me pour tea too carefully, like she expected my hands to shake. "Did you remember your medication today?" she asked casually. "Yes," I answered immediately. You're sure? I slowly placed the teapot down. Celine. She smiled softly again. I'm only making sure everything's okay. Making sure. Again that phrase. Not helping, monitoring. That night, I checked my medication organizer 3 separate times before sleeping. Everything remained exactly correct. Still, Adrian's voice repeated endlessly inside my head. That's exactly what worries me lately. The next morning, something strange happened again. My brass letter opener disappeared from my writing desk. Arthur bought that letter opener nearly 30 years earlier during a business trip. It always stayed inside the top right drawer. Always. That morning, I found it inside the kitchen drawer, beside wooden spoons and spice jars. I stood there frozen silently, staring toward it. Did I move it myself? Why couldn't I remember doing that? I searched my memory desperately. Nothing appeared. No memory, no image, nothing. I returned it carefully back where it belonged, while discomfort spread slowly through my chest. Then Adrian called again around noon. "How's your morning going?" he asked pleasantly. "Quiet," I answered. Then suddenly he asked something strange. "Did you find everything okay today?" My fingers tightened around the phone instantly. "I beg your pardon? I mean, didn't you misplace anything again?" He corrected quickly. Again, not today, again. That was the moment something finally shifted inside me, because suddenly I realized something terrifying. He expected me to lose things before I discovered the missing. That afternoon, Celine entered my house again using the emergency key without warning first. Years ago, that key meant trust. Now it sounded like invasion. "I brought lunch," she announced, while placing containers across my counter. "You shouldn't cook alone so much anymore." "I've been cooking longer than you've been alive," I answered calmly. She smiled politely. Things change. During lunch, she suddenly asked another strange question. "Do you remember what you ate for breakfast today?" I lowered my fork slowly. "Celine, what exactly are you doing?" "Memory exercises help people stay mentally active," she replied gently. "My mind is perfectly active already." "Of course," she answered softly again. That same tone adults use while calming nervous children. After she left, I walked slowly through every room inside my house. Something felt wrong everywhere. A cushion slightly moved, a photograph turned differently, a pantry drawer half open. Tiny details, tiny impossible details. Then I noticed my jar of lingonberry preserves completely missing from the pantry shelf. An hour later, I found it beside my bathroom sink. Not hidden, displayed, like That night, I didn't sleep even a little peacefully. Not because I felt confused anymore, because for the very first time, everything started making terrible sense together. Fear disappears once patterns become visible clearly. The next morning, I dressed carefully before my doctor's appointment. Dark navy blouse, pressed grey slacks, silver thistle brooch Arthur loved seeing me wear. Adrian arrived 10 minutes early, carrying my coat already folded across his arm. "Ready?" he asked softly. "I can still manage my own coat," I answered calmly, but I let him hand it to me anyway. During the drive, he kept glancing toward me at every stoplight, like he expected me to suddenly forget where we were going. I noticed everything: the bakery near the corner, the florist beside the old theatre, the cracked sidewalk Arthur once complained about constantly. My memory worked perfectly fine, only their version of me kept changing. Inside the clinic, Dr. Simon Greaves greeted me warmly, although I noticed his eyes briefly shifting toward Adrian before settling back onto me again. "How have you been feeling lately, Miriam?" he asked politely. Before I could answer, Adrian immediately stepped forward. "She's been forgetting things recently, misplacing objects, repeating conversations, getting confused sometimes." Confused. Funny how easily people use that word while speaking for someone else. Dr. Greaves nodded slowly. "Let's run a few routine evaluations today." The tests were simple: dates, patterns, shapes, memory sequences. I answered every single question immediately without hesitation. When he finished, the doctor leaned back slightly inside his chair. "From what I can currently observe, there are no clear signs of cognitive decline." Silence filled the room instantly afterwards. Adrian shifted uncomfortably beside me. "But early stages don't always appear immediately," he added quickly. "That's true," Dr. Greaves admitted calmly, "but concern alone isn't medical evidence." Concern alone isn't medical evidence. I held on to that sentence tightly all afternoon afterwards, because something about Adrian's expression changed once we left the clinic. Not relief, disappointment, like the results ruined something important for him unexpectedly. That evening, while he made tea inside my kitchen, I walked quietly past the coat hanging over the dining chair. I normally never searched through anyone's belongings, but normal stopped existing weeks earlier. Inside his coat pocket, I found a glossy brochure folded carefully twice: Silverwood Residential Care, Memory Support, Long-Term Assisted Living, Legal Transition Guidance. I stared silently towards smiling elderly faces printed across the pages, while cold realization spread slowly through my chest again. They weren't preparing to help me, they were preparing to remove me. When I returned into the kitchen, Adrian looked toward me immediately. "Everything okay?" he asked casually. I sat down slowly across from him. "Yes," I answered softly. "I've just been feeling a little tired lately." The moment those words left my mouth, something changed inside his eyes immediately. Relief, real relief. That was when I made my decision. If they wanted confusion, I would give them confusion, but controlled confusion, careful confusion, enough making them comfortable. 3 days later, Celine invited me to dinner at a restaurant called the Copper Pheasant. Not casual dinner, arranged dinner. Adrian would attend, Nadine too, Victor, even Juniper. I accepted immediately, not because I trusted the invitation, because I wanted to watch them together closely. The restaurant smelled like expensive wine, roasted garlic, citrus oils, and fake politeness. Soft lighting covered everyone beautifully, the perfect place for performances pretending to look like concern. Adrian stood too quickly once I arrived. "Mum, you made it," he said warmly. "I said I would," I answered calmly. At first, everything seemed normal enough. Wine arrived, menus opened. Victor joked about overpriced appetizers. Then slowly the performance began. "So, Mum," Adrian asked casually while swirling wine inside his glass, "did you find your keys today?" "Yes." "Where were they?" "Exactly where I left them." He nodded slowly, like he was mentally recording my answer somewhere invisible. Then Celine leaned slightly closer toward me. "You called me 3 different times yesterday asking the same question." I stared directly toward her. "No, I didn't." She smiled softly immediately. "It's okay if you don't remember." There it was again, that fake gentleness, that careful correction designed making everyone around the table doubt me too. Every story I told during dinner became adjusted afterwards. "That's not exactly how it happened. You're mixing details together. Close, but not completely right." Piece by piece, they were replacing my reality while pretending kindness. Then something happened, changing everything permanently. As dessert arrived, Juniper leaned slightly toward me, quiet enough, avoiding attention. "Grandma, Dad's been talking to lawyers." I didn't react outwardly, didn't freeze, didn't question her. I simply took another slow sip of water while clarity settled completely inside my chest. This was never about memory, it was about control, and they already believed I was too confused noticing their plan unfolding around me. The following morning, I ordered a recorder online using an old catalog account nobody remembered existed anymore. Small device, black casing, simple controls, easy hiding, easy forgetting. Perfect. If people believe you're weak, they eventually stop hiding their true intentions completely. That same afternoon, Adrian called again. "Did you remember paying the electric bill today?" he asked carefully. I paused intentionally before answering. "I think so, or maybe I plan doing it tomorrow." Silence followed immediately afterwards. Then came that same careful softness again. "It's okay, Mum, these things happen." I could practically hear his confidence growing stronger through the phone. By evening, Celine arrived with another folder beneath her arm. "I thought maybe we could organize some practical things together," she explained gently. Inside the folder sat clean legal forms waiting patiently for signatures. Temporary financial access, medical authorization, emergency decision permissions. Every sentence sounded harmless separately. Together they sounded like surrender. "I've been feeling a little overwhelmed lately," I admitted softly while staring down toward the paperwork. Celine's expression changed instantly. Not sadness, confirmation. "I know," she whispered carefully. Of course she knew, because they created the confusion themselves. That night after she left, I hid the recorder in an old encyclopedia nobody touched anymore. Then I started documenting everything carefully in a notebook hidden beneath folded linens upstairs. Dates, times, conversations, objects moved strangely afterwards. Patterns matter. If they were building a story against me, I would build one against them too. 2 days later, Adrian arrived unexpectedly again. This time he moved differently through my house, more confident, less cautious. "Maybe it's time simplifying things around here," he suggested while opening random cabinets casually. "Simplifying," I repeated calmly. "Less responsibility, less stress, fewer things keeping track. Not helping, reducing." That afternoon, I called my bank directly using the emergency number Arthur once wrote carefully inside his address book years ago. A woman named Elise answered professionally. "I'd like to review recent account access requests," I explained quietly. Several moments passed while she checked records. Then finally she spoke again.
There was a pending request adding secondary financial oversight onto your accounts. My chest tightened instantly. Who submitted it? Adrian Halstead. Of course. I never approved that request, I answered immediately. No authorization has been completed yet, she replied. Leave it that way. After hanging up, I sat alone.
After that phone call with the bank, something inside me changed permanently. Not emotionally, strategically. Because once you realize people are quietly planning your removal, you stop reacting like family and start observing like survival depends on it. And maybe that sounds cold to some of you listening right now, but betrayal changes the temperature of love forever. The next morning, I started taking photographs secretly around the house. Nothing dramatic, nothing obvious, just quiet evidence. The position of kitchen drawers before leaving the room, the arrangement of mail beside the hallway table, the angle of chairs, cabinet doors, pantry shelves. Every detail mattered now, because someone kept touching my life while pretending they were protecting it. By afternoon, another strange thing happened again. The fruit bowl near the window shifted slightly clockwise, only a little, barely noticeable, but I noticed. People underestimate older women constantly. They think age weakens observation somehow. Truthfully, age sharpens observation because you stop wasting attention on meaningless things. That evening, Adrian and Celine arrived together unexpectedly again. Adrian carried another folder beneath his arm, thicker this time. Just a few more documents, he explained casually, while sitting down immediately at my dining table. I didn't touch the folder right away. Instead, I sliced pears slowly onto a ceramic plate while listening carefully. "What kind of documents?" I asked calmly. "Temporary authorizations, mostly," Adrian answered smoothly. "Just precautions in case things progress." Progress. Interesting word. Like my disappearance already existed somewhere inside their future plans permanently. Nadine arrived several minutes later, removing leather gloves slowly beside the doorway. "It's really for your protection, Miriam," she added gently while sitting beside Adrian. Protection. Every ugly thing eventually hides behind beautiful language first. I opened the folder carefully afterward. Medical proxy forms, financial oversight agreements, emergency authority permissions, every signature line waiting patiently like a trap already prepared. "I don't know if I understand all this completely," I admitted softly, while lowering my eyes intentionally. The reaction came instantly. Adrian relaxed immediately. Celine exchanged a quick glance with Nadine. "That's okay," Adrian replied gently. "You don't need understanding everything anymore." That sentence almost made me physically sick. Not because it sounded cruel, because it sounded practiced.
After they finally left later that evening, I removed the recorder from inside the encyclopedia and pressed play carefully. Their voices filled my quiet kitchen immediately afterward. "She's hesitating more now," Celine whispered. "That's normal," Nadine answered calmly. "Don't push too hard yet." "We don't have time moving slowly anymore," Adrian replied sharply. Then came the sentence changing everything inside me permanently. "Make it feel like her idea." I replayed those words 3 different times afterward. Make it feel like her idea. That was never concern, never protection. That was strategy. The next morning, I added another habit into my routine. I started pretending confusion more openly around them. Carefully controlled confusion, enough encouraging them becoming careless. When Adrian called asking whether I remembered paying utilities, I paused intentionally before answering. "I think I forgot," I admitted softly. His voice changed immediately afterward, not worried, encouraged. "It's all right, Mum," he answered gently. "I'll start helping with those things now." Helping. Funny word, considering he already attempted accessing my accounts secretly twice. That afternoon, Celine entered my house again without knocking first. This time, flour covered part of my kitchen counter strangely, white powder scattered across the surface, leading toward the floor. I stopped walking immediately. I hadn't baked anything for 3 days. Celine tilted her head carefully while observing the mess. "Were you cooking earlier?" she asked softly. "No," I answered calmly. Her eyes shifted briefly toward the flour before returning back towards me. "Then how did this happen?" I stared directly at her silently for several seconds, and for one brief moment her expression changed completely. Not concern, calculation. Then the softness returned instantly again. "It's okay," she whispered gently. "These things happen sometimes." Sometimes, like confusion already belonged naturally inside me now. I walked past her afterward and opened the linen drawer near the hallway closet. My mail sat hidden underneath folded towels, not misplaced accidentally, hidden. I picked up one unopened envelope slowly while Celine watched carefully behind me. "I thought I already sorted those earlier," she explained lightly. Sorted, not moved, not hidden, sorted. I wrote down the exact time immediately after she left, 12:17. Every detail mattered now. That same afternoon, I met with a lawyer named Calder Wynne. Quiet office, dark wooden shelves, perfectly organized desk. The kind of room where nothing important gets ignored. He listened silently while I explained everything carefully from the beginning. The missing objects, the hidden mail, the legal forms, the bank requests, the recordings. When I finally finished speaking, Calder leaned backwards slightly inside his chair before studying me carefully. "You're not confused," he said plainly. "No," I answered immediately. And you've documented everything? Yes. He nodded slowly afterward. Good, he replied calmly, because what your children are building isn't concern. What is it? I asked quietly. A legal case. Those two words settled heavily between us afterward. They're creating patterns supporting future guardianship, he continued carefully. Manufactured instability, financial dependency, cognitive doubt. I placed the recorder slowly on his desk afterward. Then I'm building something too, I answered calmly. For the first time since this nightmare began, Calder smiled slightly. Good, he replied quietly, because we're not defending you anymore. What are we doing? We're exposing them. That sentence changed everything inside me completely. For weeks, I felt hunted quietly inside my own life. Now, suddenly, the balance shifted, because once truth becomes
The next morning, Adrian arrived earlier than usual, carrying another folder beneath his arm. Not nervous, not hesitant, confident. That frightened me more than anything else so far, because confidence means people already believe victory belongs to them permanently. "Morning, Mum," he said warmly while stepping inside without knocking again. I noticed he stopped pretending asking permission entirely now. Nadine followed several steps behind him, carrying coffee cups from the cafe downtown. "We thought keeping things simple today might help," she explained gently. Simple. Another soft word hiding sharp intentions underneath. I invited them into the kitchen calmly before placing Earl Grey tea onto the table. Same cups, same movements, same careful routine. Routine matters when people are destroying your stability quietly. Adrian opened the folder immediately afterwards. "Just one final document left," he explained smoothly while sliding papers toward me. Final. That word echoed loudly inside my chest. I looked down toward the paperwork carefully. Full financial authority, property management rights, asset restructuring permissions. No more temporary language anymore. No more pretending this was about helping occasionally. This document handed my entire life directly into his hands legally. "I don't want making mistakes," I whispered softly while lowering my eyes intentionally. "You won't," Adrian answered immediately. "I already reviewed everything carefully." Safe for who? That question screamed inside my mind silently. Instead, I looked toward him slowly before asking another question calmly. "And the house?" He hesitated briefly, only 1 second, but hesitation reveals truth faster than words ever will. "We'll manage everything responsibly," he answered carefully. Manage. Not protect, not preserve. Manage. "And my accounts," I continued quietly. "We'll streamline everything," Nadine added smoothly. "Less stress for you overall." Streamline, manage, simplify. Every single word meant exactly the same thing eventually. Control. I picked up the pen slowly afterwards while silence filled the room heavily. Then, finally, I spoke softly enough, forcing them leaning closer carefully. "I trust you." Adrian exhaled deeply immediately afterwards. Real relief crossed his face openly this time. Not concern, victory. That expression alone told me every recording, every notebook entry, every hidden photograph mattered completely. I signed the document carefully afterwards. Perfect handwriting, steady hands, no confusion anywhere visible. Then I placed the pen gently back onto the table. "There," I whispered quietly, "that's everything." Adrian gathered the paperwork almost too quickly afterwards, checking every signature repeatedly, like counting money. "It's done," he said softly. Done. Amazing how easily family members speak about ending your independence permanently. They stood near the doorway preparing to leave afterwards, but something important happened next. They relaxed. And people always become careless after believing they already won completely. "I'll contact the realtor this afternoon," Adrian mentioned casually while slipping papers inside his briefcase. "Good," Nadine answered calmly. "The sooner the house gets listed, the easier everything becomes." "And the accounts?" she asked quietly afterwards. "We'll move everything before she starts questioning details," Adrian replied confidently. Before she starts questioning details. I remained perfectly still while listening carefully. "Give everything 1 week maximum," he continued casually. "After that, it's finalized." 1 week. That was how long they expected needing erase me completely from my own life. The front door finally closed behind them several moments later. Silence returned slowly throughout the house afterwards. I washed my teacup carefully, dried it slowly, placed it back exactly where it belonged. Routine matters. Then, finally, I walked toward the bookshelf, removed the recorder from inside the encyclopedia, and pressed play. Adrian's voice filled the kitchen clearly afterwards. "Once everything transfers successfully, we list the property immediately." Then Nadine answered calmly, "Make sure finishing everything before she realizes what's happening." I replayed that sentence repeatedly afterwards while staring toward Arthur's photograph beside the window. Before she realizes what's happening. The tragedy wasn't only greed anymore. It was certainty. They genuinely believed I couldn't see them clearly anymore. That afternoon I called Calder immediately afterwards. "They signed everything," I explained calmly. A short silence followed before he answered carefully. "And you?" "I gave them exactly what they wanted." Another pause. Then finally he replied quietly, "Good. Now we take everything back." The following 3 days passed strangely quiet afterwards. No surprise visits, no fake concern calls from Celine, no emotional check-ins pretending love. Only silence. That silence confirmed everything already. They were busy moving forward with their plan now. By the 3rd morning, the first notification arrived from my bank. Account restructuring request pending. I didn't interfere. Didn't panic, didn't respond emotionally, because Calder warned me already. The more aggressively they act, the clearer criminal intent becomes legally. So I let them continue comfortably. That morning I brewed coffee slowly, exactly like Arthur taught me years earlier. Measured grounds carefully, waited patiently beside the kettle, watched steam curl upward softly. Routine, control, clarity. At 11:20 my phone rang unexpectedly. Adrian.
I answered after several rings intentionally. "How are you feeling today?" he asked warmly. "Tired," I answered softly. A pause followed immediately. "That's okay," he replied gently. "You don't need worrying about anything anymore. Anything anymore. Because according to him, my life already belonged elsewhere now. We've already started organizing your accounts," he continued smoothly, "just simplifying everything for you." Simplifying. Again that word. "That sounds helpful," I answered quietly. "It is," he replied confidently. "You'll see eventually." I almost smiled afterwards. "I trust you," I whispered softly once more. Long silence followed immediately. Then finally he spoke again, quieter than before. "I know." He hung up first afterwards. That was new too. Confident people stop pretending politeness once they believe control belongs entirely to them already. That afternoon I visited Calder's office again. Everything waited prepared neatly across his desk. Independent neurological evaluations, bank records, unauthorized access attempts, photographs, logs, time-stamped recordings. Every lie documented carefully now. "They've initiated asset movement already," Calder explained while sliding paperwork toward me. "How long before they officially file guardianship?" I asked calmly. "Soon," he answered immediately. "They need legal authority completing everything cleanly. And without guardianship, financial exploitation becomes much harder hiding legally." I leaned back slowly afterwards, understanding everything perfectly now. "So they'll tell the court I'm mentally incapable?" "Yes."
The courtroom felt much smaller than I imagined. Not dramatic, not grand, just polished wood, quiet tension, and rows of chairs filled with people pretending family still meant something sacred. I arrived early beside Calder, carrying my purse carefully against my chest. Inside that purse sat the recorder, changing everything permanently. Across the courtroom, Adrian entered first beside Celine and Nadine. Victor followed silently behind them, carrying folders against his chest nervously. None of them looked guilty. That was the most painful part. They looked prepared, like people arriving for a meeting, already believing victory belonged entirely to them. Judge Helena Cross entered moments later before opening the case calmly. "Petition for guardianship of Miriam Halstead," she announced professionally. "Proceed." Their lawyer stood immediately afterward, speaking with polished confidence. "Over recent months," he explained carefully, "Miss Halstead has demonstrated increasing memory instability, confusion, and declining daily functionality." Declining daily functionality. Interesting phrase, considering I still managed every bill, every appointment, every responsibility alone without assistance. Then Adrian stood speaking next. "My mother has always been independent," he began softly, "but recently things changed." He sounded believable too. That hurt more than anger ever could. "She forgets conversations," Celine added emotionally afterward. "She misplaces important items constantly. We're only trying protecting her." Protecting. Again that word. Even Victor presented short video clips carefully edited together afterward. A dropped fork, a paused answer, a misplaced object. Tiny moments transformed artificially into evidence supporting incompetence.
I remained completely silent through all of it, no interruptions, no emotional reactions, because truth doesn't panic when lies perform loudly. Finally, Judge Cross turned towards Calder calmly. "Response?" she asked simply. Calder stood slowly afterward before placing several documents onto the judge's desk carefully. "Your Honor," he began calmly, "this case absolutely concerns protection." A brief pause followed, but not in the way presented today. The entire courtroom shifted slightly afterward. Attention changed directions immediately. Calder removed the recorder carefully from his briefcase before placing it onto the evidence cable. This device contains 6 months of legally obtained recordings captured inside Mrs. Halstead's residence, he explained professionally. For the first time since entering the courtroom, Adrian's posture changed visibly, not dramatically, just enough. Celine's hands tightened together immediately afterward. "Permission playing selected excerpts?" Calder asked calmly. Judge Cross nodded once. "Proceed." Then Calder pressed play. Adrian's voice filled the courtroom clearly afterward. "Once we gain authority, we list the house immediately." Silence crashed across the room instantly. Heavy silence, dangerous silence. Then Celine's voice followed next, and the accounts. Adrian answered calmly through the speakers. "We consolidate everything first, then divide it cleanly afterward." Nobody moved afterward, nobody breathed loudly, because suddenly nothing required interpretation anymore. Their intentions sat openly inside the room, speaking through their own voices clearly. Calder paused the recording several moments later before continuing calmly. "This was never concern," he explained professionally. "This was coordinated manipulation designed establishing false cognitive decline for financial control." Adrian stood abruptly afterward. "That recording lacks context," he argued quickly. "Sit down immediately," Judge Cross ordered sharply. For the first time throughout this entire nightmare, Adrian actually looked uncertain. Then Calder pressed play again. This time Nadine's voice entered the courtroom quietly. "Make sure everything finishes before she realizes what's happening." That sentence changed the entire room permanently. I saw it happen immediately across the judge's face. Not sympathy, recognition. Recognition that this was no longer a guardianship concern case. This was exploitation. Calder continued presenting evidence afterward, one piece at a time calmly. Independent neurological evaluations proving complete cognitive stability, bank records showing unauthorized access attempts, photographs documenting staged confusion incidents, personal logs recording every suspicious interaction carefully. He never raised his voice once. He didn't need performing emotion because facts already destroyed everything themselves. Then, finally, Judge Cross looked directly towards me. "Mrs. Halstead, would you like speaking personally?" I stood carefully afterward, not weakly, normally. "My name is Miriam Halstead. I have lived inside the same home for over 40 years. The courtroom remained completely silent afterward. "I raised my children there. I buried my husband there. And after losing him, I learned continuing life alone anyway." I looked towards Adrian briefly for the first time. "They told me I was forgetting things," I explained quietly. "At first I believed them." That sentence hurt admitting publicly, because manipulation works strongest when coming from people you once trusted completely. But eventually, objects started moving strangely, mail disappeared, conversations changed, stories became rewritten around me constantly. Celine lowered her eyes immediately afterward. So I stopped arguing, I said calmly, and I started listening instead. I removed my notebook slowly from inside my purse before placing it carefully onto the evidence table. Every date, every visit, every change, everything documented. Calder handed copies towards the judge silently afterward. And when documentation stopped feeling enough, I continued softly. I recorded the rest. Judge Cross nodded slowly while reviewing pages carefully. "I've heard enough," she announced quietly afterward. Adrian finally spoke again desperately. "Mom." "No," I interrupted calmly, not loudly, not emotionally, just final. "You do not call me that here anymore." That sentence hit harder than shouting ever could, because anger still carries attachment sometimes, distance doesn't. Celine's composure broke completely afterward. "We were trying helping you," she whispered shakily. "No," I answered immediately. "You were preparing removing me." Silence filled the courtroom completely afterward. Then, finally, Judge Cross closed the case file carefully before speaking clearly. "This court finds absolutely no evidence supporting cognitive incapacity," she stated firmly. Adrian lowered his eyes immediately afterward. "On the contrary," she continued, "evidence strongly suggests deliberate manipulation intended obtaining financial control through fabricated instability." Nobody interrupted, nobody defended themselves anymore, because truth leaves very little room remaining afterward. "The guardianship petition is denied effective immediately," Judge Cross announced firmly. Then came the sentence none of them expected hearing. "I am also referring this matter for further investigation regarding potential financial exploitation." That destroyed whatever confidence still remained across their faces completely. Celine covered her mouth silently. Victor stared towards the floor. Adrian looked hollow suddenly. And me? I didn't feel victorious, just clear. Clear in the same way storms feel clear after destroying everything false standing underneath them. Judge Cross looked towards me one final time afterward. "Mrs. Halstead, you are free leaving now." Free. Interesting word after spending months trapped in someone else's version of you. I collected my purse calmly before walking past all of them towards the courthouse doors. Nobody stopped me this time. Outside, cold afternoon air touched my face honestly. No fake concern, no softened voices, no manipulation disguised